Tonight, former President Trump draws a massive crowd right here in New York City with just 9 days to go. What are new polling shows about the state of the race, and which candidate now has a slight lead as millions of Americans head to the polls in early voting? In this, the final stretch, the candidates are making their closing arguments to the American people. Former President Trump supporters pack Madison Square Garden, while Vice President Harris and Governor Walz focus on the battleground states. Harris is joined by Democratic Party heavy hitters, former First Lady Michelle Obama, asking voters to decide which side of history they want to be on. And what voters are saying in the final days of this election. Rachel Scott, MaryAlice Parks, and Rick Klein all standing by. Overseas, a deadly attack at an Israeli bus stop, leaving at least one person dead, dozens more injured. Israeli police say they're investigating it as a suspected terrorist attack as the region braces for more violence. Tom Sufi Burridge reports from Tel Aviv. Shocking surveillance video shows a dispute between neighbors. Why the Minneapolis police chief is now under fire, accused of not doing more to prevent the violent incident. New details in the death of a decorated Army sergeant found dead in a dumpster near her Missouri base. The dramatic rescue off the Jersey Shore. Surfers helped to save a group of fishermen knocked into the water by rough waves. The Dolphins star quarterback returns to the field weeks after suffering a concussion. The LA Dodgers take a commanding World Series lead, but not without a scare for their biggest star, the latest on Shohei Otani's shoulder injury, and the walk-off hero of Game 1, how his family helped inspire that dramatic moment of joy on the heels of a difficult year.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this busy Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the race for the White House, just 9 days until Election Day. Former President Trump drawing a massive crowd for a rally at New York's Madison Square Garden. Trump is making a return to his former hometown, looking to flip the deep blue state for the first time in decades. Police tightening security around Madison Square Garden as thousands gather for the rally. A new ABC News-Ipsos poll shows Trump and Harris are in a dead heat, with the vice president holding a slight lead among likely voters. We'll have more on that poll shortly. It comes against the backdrop of more than 41 million Americans who've already cast their ballots. ABC's Rachel Scott leads us off tonight from Madison Square Garden.
Tonight, just 9 days until Election Day, former President Donald Trump trading the critical neck-and-neck battleground states for his deep blue home state of New York.
I'm thrilled to be back in the city I love, and thousands of proud, hard-working American patriots, you're with me.
Line stretching outside his rally at Madison Square Garden, branded the world's most famous arena, known for Knicks basketball games and star-studded concerts. It's here in New York where Donald Trump built his business and where he was indicted and convicted in May of falsifying business records. Tonight, the former president returning to deliver his closing message.
We're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to win back the beautiful White House, and we're going to make America great again.
In recent days, Trump leaning into his signature issue of the border, declaring the influx of undocumented immigrants has soured the country.
We've become like a garbage can for the rest of the world. They're throwing all their garbage into our country.
Tonight's rally kicking off with one comedian comparing Puerto Rico to an island of garbage.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Vice President Kamala Harris today slamming Trump's rhetoric, calling it dark and divisive.
He talks about America being the garbage can of the world, and just continuously, I think, demeans the character and nature of who we are as America and who the American people are. Today, Trump's running mate Senator J.D. Vance agreeing with Trump that some of their Democratic political opponents are a bigger threat than foreign adversaries.
We can handle foreign conflicts. We can handle, look, under Nancy Pelosi's long life in public leadership, the United States has gone from the preeminent industrial power of the world to second next to China. That fundamentally belongs on Nancy Pelosi's shoulders.
Rachel Scott joins us now from Madison Square Garden. Rachel, Trump trying to energize his base tonight, but also boost a handful of vulnerable Republicans who could determine control of Congress.
Exactly, Lindsay. A Republican presidential candidate has not won the state of New York since Ronald Reagan 40 years ago. But Republicans are fighting for majority in both the House and the Senate this election. And Donald Trump's present in this state now, with just days to go, could help boost some of those vulnerable Republican candidates down the ballot in those key House races that could ultimately determine control of the House, Lindsay.
So much at stake, Rachel. Thank you. Vice President Harris and her running mate Tim Walz are really zeroing in on the battleground states as Election Day nears. Harris is holding a rally tonight in Philadelphia with a final message to voters there. And Walz is in Nevada, making a special pitch on the Twitch platform to young male voters. More now from ABC's White House correspondent, MaryAlice Parks.
Vice President Kamala Harris tonight starting off the week in Philadelphia, ahead of a week-long blitz of battleground states.
We are not going back.
Pennsylvania, the biggest of the swing states, could decide it all. And she needs Democrats in Philadelphia to come out for her in big numbers. Harris today hitting the streets, meeting voters and encouraging them to get to the polls. At church this morning in West Philly, she promised joy was coming in the morning. At a barbershop, Harris talking about education and her hope to recruit more black men to be teachers. Stopping at a bookstore, visiting this Puerto Rican restaurant in North Philadelphia, meeting with supporters.
Oh no, it's going to work out. That's right.
Telling the crowd she will win. Harris also stopping by this middle school, speaking to kids during basketball practice. It'll be a full court press for Democrats up until Election Day. ABC News polling showing that while Harris has a slight lead nationally, there is a sharp gender divide. Donald Trump with a 6-point advantage among men, similar to the election 4 years ago. With such razor-thin margins in the polls, today Governor Tim Walz, in an effort to reach new voters, especially young men, playing Madden, a football video game on the platform Twitch, with House Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
That guy right there, okay, here's the deal with that. That guy is the greatest receiver in the league.
And overnight, former First Lady Michelle Obama campaigning for the first time alongside Harris, also making a direct pitch to men, asking them, in her words, to take reproductive health and women's lives seriously.
If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Now, Lindsay, as for that gender gap, Harris does hold a 14-point advantage among women. Harris and Walz are set to campaign together in Michigan, and then on Tuesday, she'll be back here in Washington, D.C. with that speech at the Ellipse on the National Mall, right in the spot where former President Trump held his rally on January 6th before the riot at the Capitol. Lindsay.
The final push in these last critical days, MaryAlice, thank you. And those battleground states could ultimately decide the election. Let's bring in ABC News political director and Washington bureau chief, Mr. Rick Klein. And Rick, the margins are still razor thin, but it appears, according to our latest poll, that Vice President Kamala Harris has regained a slight lead.
Yeah, Lindsay, our new poll with Ipsos has Vice President Harris opening up a 4-point lead, 51-47 in a head-to-head matchup against Donald Trump. But that is far from a safe margin. In fact, it narrows significantly if you add in third-party candidates or if you zoom in on the battleground states. And there, Lindsay, the story of the race is as close to tied as you can possibly imagine. Our 538 polling average across the 7 major battlegrounds shows momentum toward Trump in the last couple of weeks, but basically it is a deadlocked race overall, even as 40 million Americans and counting have already cast their votes for president. One fascinating dynamic in our poll, Trump is strongest on some of the most critical issues to voters, including the economy and inflation, as well as trust in handling the border. Harris has a significant edge in trust to handle abortion rights, as well as defending democracy, which is a big part of her closing message, as we've been reporting. But when it comes to personal attributes, it is basically all Harris. She has big edges in how she is seen physically as well as mentally, as well as honesty and trustworthiness, even who understands the problems of people like you. All of that matters down the stretch in a race where people who will decide this race, they almost certainly have yet to cast their ballots. Lindsay?
Both campaigns courting those highly coveted undecided voters. Rick, thank you. Overseas now, and a deadly truck ramming incident at a crowded bus stop in central Israel. One person is dead and dozens more injured, some in serious condition. Israeli police are calling it a suspected terror attack. It comes one day after Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran. ABC's Tom Sufi Burge reports tonight from Tel Aviv.
A truck slamming into a bus stop near Israeli military bases north of Tel Aviv, wounding more than 30 people. Tonight, one victim now confirmed dead. Police calling it a suspected terror attack. Well, you can see the destruction to the truck itself, the side of it ripped off, the wheel buckled. It gives you a sense of the force as it rammed into this area as a crowd of people, including military personnel, got off a bus. The driver, an Israeli Arab citizen, say police, was shot dead by armed civilians at the scene. Paramedic Anastasia arriving within minutes. You saw people crushed underneath the truck?
Yeah. One of the injured when I came still was under the truck.
Iran's proxy Hezbollah praising the attack, coming a day after Israel's mass aerial bombardment against Iran. Israel saying it struck Iranian air defense systems and missile and drone production and storage sites. And Lindsay, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu pushing back on the idea that he refrained from hitting Iranian nuclear and oil infrastructure because of US pressure. Iran calling Israel's attack a miscalculation, saying it will respond. Lindsay?
Tom Sufi-Burge from Tel Aviv for us. Thank you. Back here at home, a months-long dispute between neighbors ends with one of them facing an attempted murder charge in Minneapolis. The chilling moment, Davis Moturi was shot while trimming a tree, captured on camera. Now his neighbor also faces assault, stalking, and harassment charges. Moturi spoke out today from his hospital bed. Here's ABC's Rena Roy.
Tonight, a shooting on a Minneapolis front lawn sparking growing questions about why police didn't intervene sooner. Davis Moturi trimming a tree outside his home when gunfire rang out Wednesday. Police say his next-door neighbor pulled the trigger.
It was a very traumatic moment. Not only shot, but shot in your neck, and the people are fighting to save your life.
That neighbor, John Sawchak, now wanted on multiple charges, including attempted murder. According to the complaint, the defendant has made countless other threats and engaged in almost constant harassment of the victim and his wife since they purchased their home in September 2023. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office seeking an extreme risk protection order, noting the suspect's paranoid personality disorder.
We have a suspect who is mentally ill, and now he is known to possess firearms.
The police chief says they've been working to arrest him since at least April.
He refused to come to the door every time. Officers could not even tell if the person was actually home.
And that they're now working around the clock to safely bring him into custody.
We are not going to bust the door down, guns blazing, and get into a deadly force situation. That's not going to happen.
Lindsay, tonight police are pledging to keep the community safe until they can bring the suspect into custody. Lindsay?
All right, Rena, thank you. Next tonight, the heat wave in October. Record highs are possible this week from Texas all the way into New England. And trick-or-treaters could hit the streets in possible record heat in the Northeast on Halloween. Let's get right to Cheryl Scott from our Chicago station, WLS ABC. Cheryl, how long will this heat wave continue?
Yes, Lindsay, it's going to continue for so many this week. We are tracking this record-breaking heat spreading up to the north and east. Major cities from Dallas up to St. Louis and Detroit with highs in the 70s and 80s. 81 degrees on Tuesday in Chicago. That's a record high. This heat spreading east for Halloween. Baltimore, Philadelphia up to Boston with temperatures well above average. A lot of these cities will experience one of their warmest Halloweens on record, and the hot and dry weather fueling the fire danger threat from Delaware up to New Hampshire, and much of the country abnormally dry. Now 40 states experiencing some type of drought. No meaningful rainfall here for the East Coast, but we are tracking some beneficial rain for the middle of the country this week. Lindsay?
We could all certainly use that rain, Cheryl. Thank you. We turn now to the dramatic moment. Surfers save fishermen knocked off of a jetty in the waters of New Jersey. The Good Samaritans used their surfboards to lend a helping hand. More now from ABC's Ike Ajachi.
Tonight, a daring beach water rescue caught on camera in New Jersey. Surfers gathering for an event called Battle at the Jetty at what's described as a popular but dangerous spot along the Jersey shore. Those rough waves slamming into 3 fishermen, knocking them off a jetty and into the treacherous waters.
All of a sudden, boom, giant wave comes. There was 3 fishermen and 2 of them got swept over the jetty. It's like, oh my gosh. Someone's got to go save them.
18-year-old nursing student Cooper Lysinger was one of the several surfers last weekend swimming to the rescue. This video showing Lysinger using a surfboard to guide one of the fishermen to safety, the waters slamming into the 2. Witnesses say all fishermen made it back to shore safely.
And just the waves kind of started pushing us in, so that's kind of how everyone got saved.
The Avalon Beach Patrol says they made 172 rescues at that location in just the past 2 summers. Now, officials are encouraging beachgoers to practice common sense and never swim alone and follow the motto, when in doubt, don't go out. Lindsay?
All right, Ike Ajachi for us. Thank you. Now to the World Series and the injury to Dodgers superstar Shohei Otani, one of the best players in baseball. The breaking news tonight about that injury and what it will mean for Game 3 against the New York Yankees. More now from ABC's Morgan Norwood reporting from New York.
With the LA Dodgers just 2 wins away from winning the World Series, tonight mounting concern over the health of global superstar Shohei Otani ahead of Game 3.
And he's in some pain.
Otani injured while sliding into second base late in the game, appearing to grab his left arm in pain before heading to the locker room, fans anxiously looking on. The Dodgers manager Dave Roberts says he suffered a subluxation, defined as a minor dislocation of the shoulder, and will undergo further testing. Just hours ago, Roberts telling ESPN Otani is in a great spot and will be playing tomorrow.
Our assumption is tomorrow's going to feel better than today.
The reigning MVP suffering multiple injuries since arriving in the U.S. back in 2018, already recovering from a major injury to his right elbow, forcing the two-way player off the mound and slowly into the batter's box.
On a 1-2, Otani sends one in the air, the other way!
Where he became the first player in Major League history with at least 50 homers and 50 stolen bases in a season.
And Lindsay, now that Otani is cleared to play, all eyes on Game 3 and how his shoulder performs. Lindsay?
Collective relief from those Dodger fans. Morgan, thank you. Now to an update on Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. He's back on the field today against the Arizona Cardinals after clearing the NFL's concussion protocol. In September, he suffered the 3rd concussion of his career. There's so much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. The Dodgers star with that historic moment, how he gained inspiration from his family's difficult journey. And an update from McDonald's on the deadly E. coli outbreak, what they say officials have found out about the source of the contamination. Next tonight, McDonald's is out with an update on the deadly nationwide E. coli outbreak linked to its Quarter Pounders. At least 75 people in 13 states affected. 1 person has died. McDonald's says testing by Colorado officials found no traces of E. coli in its Quarter Pounder burger patties. The sandwich will go back on sale in certain restaurants without the slivered onions, which are believed to be the source of the contamination. Army officials say a person of interest is now in custody in the suspected murder of a soldier at a Missouri base. The body of 23-year-old Sergeant Sarah Roque was found last week in a dumpster. She had been reported missing the day before. The base commander says her death is being investigated as a homicide and exclusively by the Army. Roque served as a mine dog handler and had enlisted in 2020. When we come back, the massive cheese theft, tons of cheddar is missing from a London warehouse. To the index now. Police in London are investigating a cheesy crime. Neal's Yard Dairy says more than 22 tons of high-value cheddar worth more than $350,000 was stolen by fraudsters posing as a legitimate wholesaler from France. The company is a leading distributor of British artisan cheeses. Neal's Yard says 950 cheeses were taken. When we come back, how a World Series hero found his inspiration in a difficult journey for his family. Finally tonight, the historic Grand Slam that was so much more than just a victory on the diamond.
Freddie Freeman, first baseman for the LA Dodgers, is grateful for a major comeback on and off the field. On Friday, he made history on night 1 of the World Series, nabbing a Dodgers win with a walk-off home run. The first player to ever hit a walk-off grand slam in the World Series.
Those are the kind of things when you're 5 years old with your 2 older brothers and you're playing football in the backyard, and those are the scenarios you kind of dream about.
It marked a joyous moment after a difficult year for a family that's been through so much. This summer, Freddie's 3-year-old son Max was hospitalized for 8 days with a rare neurological disorder, Guillain-Barré syndrome. His wife, Chelsea, took to social media to share their family's deeply personal experience. Freddie even took time away from his team to be with his family.
Seeing one of your kids on a ventilator, fighting. It was hard.
Today, Max is doing well and is expected to make a full recovery. When he first returned to the Dodgers, he received a standing ovation. Freddie is now playing the game with a greater purpose.
I can't tell you how good that felt, was to be able to hold my son again.
Something even the Yankee fans can cheer. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis. David right back here tomorrow. Until then, good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.